You remember how I would do impressions of Ronald Reagan being a bigot? Because it'd be pretty easy to deduce that a guy who denied the AIDS crisis and vetoed a sanctions package against apartheid South Africa and ran against quote-unquote welfare queens and young bucks getting welfare checks. Yeah, that guy was probably a bigot. And now we have some archival evidence of the absolute frigging obvious. This is a phone call from 1971 with Ronald Reagan to Richard Nixon. And guess what? It's Reagan saying all the racist stuff, not Richard Nixon saying his usual racist stuff.
I will say this as someone who has read, I've read more on Nixon than I have on Reagan. I think Reagan was more of a racist than even Nixon was.
Totally. I totally accept that because Nixon could still probably recognize, like, you know, like someone like, God, I had to get rid of Nkrumah. He was a darn fine strategist. Yes.
And I tell you, to watch that thing on television as I did, yeah, to see those monkeys from those African countries, damn them, they're still uncomfortable wearing shoes. Those monkeys from those African countries, damn them, they're still uncomfortable wearing shoes.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan was a great American who really restored our optimism. We should all respect him.
This is kind of a funny little thing here. The law at the underscore law underscore boy, law boy Esquire. If you think you're bad at your job, there's a Ronald Reagan biographer who didn't realize he was a racist until a week ago. You can go to this.
I'm kind of taken aback. Are you kidding me?
Said Bob Spitz, author of Reagan, An American Journey. In all of my very careful research into his private papers, I never found an instance where I felt Ronald Reagan was racist.
What about his public veto of a sanctions package against apartheid South Africa?
That's some good reporting, too. Like to go to a Republican writer of Reagan to say, hey, you never thought of this?
There's a lot of nervous biographers.
That guy really learned from Reagan, though. You could tell, like, in my examination of his private papers,
in my heart,
I
thought it wasn't racist. The facts say otherwise.
The facts say otherwise. I always thought that Curious George was a delightful character, and I meant nothing by it to the great African people.
A lot of
Donald
people,
Trump is nothing new under the sun, folks.
And a lot of people today like to say they go out without shoes because it's good for their arches.
Yeah, it's good for their arches. That's why those earth-gripping shoes are so popular.
An important point to make on this about of national security or privacy. So I've listened to a lot of Nixon tapes. I've listened to probably that call, but that was not available earlier because it was beeped out. If you listen to a lot of the Nixon tapes, the first thing I always do is load them up and then look and you can see visually how much is just beeped out with the tone.
Right.
And it's huge parts of all these conversations. We don't know half of this stuff. And this was beeped out for privacy of Ronald Reagan, which
Can
privacy,
you please bleep that out for privacy?
Yeah, privacy.
Privacy,
public,
like talking about a private medical condition or revealing that the governor of California is a rank bigot.
Yeah.
While the president chuckles along. Privacy.
Privacy becomes a euphemism for public image.
Indeed.